I'm just thinking about your experience over the past couple of days, Thelma, and I'm wondering, does anything really stand out as a peak experience or highlight experience that you've had over this very exciting international conference?
So this morning we were at a table with a group of people, and we were all doing the best in the room, we thought. We got our messages across first. I think this morning's session was very, very good. I think the idea of people sitting together to reflect together, and what I noticed from some of what was being projected on the screen was that a lot of the tables were thinking similar types of things. And I think that gives a sort of validation to the changes and the refinement that is going to be done in the Charter. And for me, this morning was the highlight of the conference.
And just to linger with you for a few more seconds, Thelma, when you saw similar thoughts and ideas being shown on the screen from other tables, what was the significance of that for you?
Well, I think the significance is that the room, the meeting is united. It may be a little bit of a strong word, but we certainly are on the same track. It shows that the Charter is in fact addressing the issues that need to be addressed, and that the changes that are being suggested are changes that are accepted sort of across the board. So it's not like a minority that wants to make a particular change. It's the group that's actually saying this particular amendment would be good.
Thank you. I'm going to turn now to Richard, who's on your right here. Richard, you made a comment to me earlier this morning that you felt as if, and I hope it's okay to repeat this, you felt that you had you'd come home and you were amongst friends, that you were amongst friends being in this space, and the words you shared yesterday seem to very much resonate with this group over here. So I'm wondering, similar to Thelma, has anything stood out to you today during your experience?
Yeah, how unfriendly everybody was. What I said before is probably for me personally what stands out most, which is that coming here, being among all of you, I've felt just truly affirmed, embraced, and being among friends is a terrific and honestly for many of us probably unusual sensation. So that's been terrific for me personally. I would say that it's also been transformative. It's changed me a little, and I'll just say a word about that. In my small group this morning over in the sunroom, we were talking about what we liked best, the words, and what most meant something to us. And we all came up eventually with the word accountability, and then we realized that word wasn't in there. And what had happened in the process of the past 2 days is I think some of our colleagues had gone from thinking responsibility was enough to thinking responsibility is not enough, and that accountability is stronger and more important and requires more of us. And that just reminded me of there's an old saying which has been erroneously attributed to Dr. Martin Luther King, said by him many times, but actually generated earlier by a Presbyterian minister near Amherst, Massachusetts, and I see some colleagues from Amherst over there, so they can claim this. That minister wrote the line, "The arc of history bends toward justice," which it does, but you have to keep bending it. And Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And we're all kind of doing that and trying to bend this arc. So what's changed in me is the sense that I don't want to be like a prize fighter anymore, going out and getting beat up and you come back to the corner and people kind of pat you back together and send you out again. That's not good enough anymore. That's responsibility. I want to be accountable, demanding. I want to have us dare to do something more aggressive than we've done before.
Again, just lingering with you for a few seconds, Richard, you often have shared a radical and a bold vision for the change that's required in higher ed around health and well-being, and thinking about your metaphor there of not simply being patched up after going out. What bold steps do you hope the folks listening in on this take with regard to this charter that really embodies that accountability that you're describing?
I think we should regard the new charter not as a document that we just share with people. It's a direction for a way of life. It's a way that we ought to think about the conversations we have, the priorities we set, the relationships we develop, the ways in which we work. And if we think about this new charter in that way, and it becomes a kind of map, kind of guideline for us, then it will have success beyond any of its predecessors.
Thank you, Richard. I'm going to turn now to Mark. You've been around a number of charters over the years, lots of processes. You've led work for a number of decades. And what would you say is the hope that you're holding for the work that we've accomplished over this past couple of days?
I mean, I've just been enormously impressed by the energy and enthusiasm and engagement of people. Because I think and for me that is the hope that actually that carries on beyond this. I think as Trevor reminded us this morning, that the charter is only really the beginning, and it's actually how we activate that, how we live that, and that's been an intrinsic part of how Sharon, Tara, and the working group have been developing it. So I've been so pleased that actually the messages and the feel from this conference hasn't been a traditional one of let's stay within our comfort zone. We've actually been challenged to move out of that, to have a really bold vision for what health promoting higher education is all about, not just looking inwards but looking outwards at the role within the world. And I guess drawing that together as well, the fact that for me, having worked across the fields of health and sustainability and social justice for quite a few years, to see a charter that is actually integrating those things and talking quite boldly about well-being of people, place, planet is fantastic. And to see the fact that actually seems to be striking a chord with people rather than people going, no, we can't go that far. So I guess that's my hope.
And you've been around the block for a while, and you've got lots of inside, hard-won knowledge around how to keep bold visions alive and well. And I'm wondering, you've shared 8 Ps, and Trevor gave us another 8 Ps this morning, so we've got P triple cubed, lots of Ps. I'm wondering, do you have any other advice from your perspective, Mark, of how we might shore up this bold vision so that it doesn't become precarious or at risk of loss?
I wish I had a simple answer to that. I think the process that we were taken through over the last few hours is part of that, of actually getting us to think, actually, what personal commitment are you going to take when you go back to work by a certain date, beyond that, at different levels? And I thought what was kind of beautiful in that room was the fact that there were some people that in a sense are in positions of influence where they can say, like I can say I'm going to take it back to the UK network because I chair that network. There are other people saying I'm going to take that back and I'm going to be a caring lecturer, professor, teacher, and I'm going to encourage my students to take that out into the world, and that actually is as powerful. And I think all of those things are about how we make this real.
Great. I'm going to turn next to Martin, and I'm going to round out with Claire, and I'm going to get a last word from all of you before we have a closing prayer. Martin, you've entered into a universe of busyness and planning and action, not only over this past few days, but as the co-chair alongside Claire over the past 12 months and maybe a bit longer. And do you have an experience that you've had over the past few days that was really sticky and a highlight that really reflected the journey that we've been on? Like, what stood out for you?
I think what stood out for me, there is in my bio. My favorite expression is in my bio, and it's every system is perfectly designed to achieve the results it gets. It's attributed to Edward Deming. Every system's perfectly designed to achieve the results it gets, and I think what stood out for me with this was the attempt to engage people in the process, and it was so important to Claire. It was so important that people understood when the opportunities to engage were, and that their feedback was being heard. And I think that's really it's really been reflected in the energy in the room over the past couple of days, especially yesterday. Yesterday was going wild, I felt. After our keynotes, the people were just so high. And today in the room, going into the room and hearing everybody talk, and everybody still engaged after so many days at a conference, so intensely engaged, I think it really spoke to the process that was being put forward.
And what would you say is your best hope for where this process might take us over the coming months and years?
My best hope? Well, one of the things that, just listening to the other people on the panel is, for me, there has been a paradigm shift in my thinking in terms of the alignment with social justice and with sustainability. And my conversations with Claire as well too, is my realization of this all being values-laden work, and that's where this wonderful intersection of all these different things that have been within our organization been competing for resources. And so you can kind of look at this, if you're a health person like myself, you look at the sustainability people kind of like, oh, okay, they're getting some money that I'm not getting. And once you start seeing it as values-laden work, it's a much more beautiful thing. So I'm hoping that spreads. I might be slow to the gate with regards to that, but that's something that I would like to spread within my university, is that sort of thinking.
Great. Claire, from napkin to charter over the course of 12 months. And we were actually going to bring in a napkin at some point today and project a napkin for our future collaborations together. But as someone who really is a convener and a broker of so many relationships in this room, Claire, like that really, it's testament to your ability to convene and bring learned people together. Do you have a highlight experience over this busy past week?
I think the thing that's been most remarkable to me is that what we wrote on that napkin a year ago has actually happened. And we were dreaming big. And we were talking about bringing together people from around the world. We were talking about bringing together people from all different sectors within higher education, then reaching out to government, local, provincial, federal, and then we got thinking about business. We got thinking about things like fair trade and economics and who does business on campuses. And so we had quite a grand vision. And then it's like, how do you make this practical? How do you make it so that people can come? And how do you make it relevant to all those different perspectives, if you will? And it just happened really I work with a wonderful team here at Okanagan. It's all grant funded. We have space, and the rest of our work is grant funded. It's all through collaboration. And everybody kind of started using, in terms of the planning of the conference, the principles that they use in their Healthy Campus work. And lo and behold, those principles actually held through in the planning of the conference. So just people started talking further and further outward to say, well, who do you know in different countries that you think might be interested in this? And people called each other up, and next thing you knew, we were networking in a way that was different spheres than I ever had before. And so that's all well and good, but then how do you actually orchestrate it? So the abstracts, I've never been involved with a conference where there were actually 3 abstract calls. Because as people began coming in from around the world, for example, our Latin American colleagues, we wanted to have make it possible for, in Spanish, for the Ibero-American network people to actually submit abstracts so that they would be able to come. So our wonderful conference organizer, Katia, is going, another abstract review? We're like a month out from the conference. No, we have to adjust the program again. But it was like everybody worked to make this happen. So that's been the most amazing thing to me. And then to see the charter actually embodying in such a broad way. It's like this work, these theories, these ideas, the connections between people. It works. It works.
And finally, before we just do a close to this panel, Claire, what do you think might be possible now? Like what might be possible as a result? Just thinking of napkins.
So one of the things that we talked about was how to help this movement, which then it was obvious that many people around the world, many different kinds of organizations cared about the work. many different kinds of issues. And so how could you keep the momentum? And I've got the sense that that is possible, that in fact people are committing to it. I actually had someone come up to me yesterday and say, do you need money to carry this work on? That's a first. And of course I said yes, and it was not a large amount of money, but nevertheless, and it was somebody outside the health sector, because they'd been participating in some of the sessions, they just dropped in, and they believed in it. So I think it's possible, truly. We're going to continue on the work, and we're going to have a community of health promoting universities and colleges, and connected with our international organizations, and connected with healthy schools and healthy municipalities. I mean, I think we're connecting the dots.
Great. Does anyone on the panel want to have a final word, a final sentiment before we close out?
I think this work is very important in terms of the universities, but I think it's also very important in terms of the universities using this opportunity to strengthen civil society and non-governmental organizations. Historically, we talk about multi-sectoral actions with the government, NGOs, and private sector. And I think the university is situated in the non-governmental civil society organizational space with a particular mandate to assist those other organizations to come on board to do the kinds of things that need to be done to advance health and wellness globally, nationally, and to, as we said in our group, to produce health promoting students who multiply the effect in the world.